So, sometimes it's the smallest oversight that creates the biggest impact. Our next speaker challenges us to rethink one of the Agile's most familiar concepts, the definition of done, in the context of AI for sure. So, with over 25 years of enterprise delivery and transformation experience, he brings a practitioner's perspective on building AI conscious delivery practices. So, ladies and gentlemen, help me in welcoming Mr. Ranjith Rajagopal on stage for the next session. Let's hear it up for Ranjith!
Hello? All awake? So this is the last speaker session. So, how many of you are having phone in your hand? Raise it. In your hand, not your hand. Can I request you to keep it on the table? Just for 15 minutes, okay? Just can you stay without phone for 15 minutes? Just 15 minutes, let's have a human to human interaction. Can we do that? Thank you. So, I was like the last speaker, I was wondering, right? Lot of great sessions through the day. Starting with Anu's keynote. Does anybody remember at least one takeaway from that session? One takeaway. No? Adaptability, okay. But that's our retention span, right? Attention and retention span. So, at least I have one takeaway from all the sessions today. So, Anu spoke about human algorithm, empathy, ethics, critical thinking, and context. Then we had session by Subramanya Chandragiri. Anyone remember any takeaway? Yeah? Yeah. The context or the foundation, getting the foundation of the leadership in a AI uncertain world. Before that we had promote session on employability, right? Again going back to looking inside, building confidence. We had Ashwini's session on pilot but not the rollout. One thing I am taking away from is human in the loop has just become QA QC. It's not really human in the loop. And Amaya's wonderful session. That gave me a real perspective on being agile, not doing agile. They were being agile while not knowing about anything about agile. We are so much glued to the agile process, right? Different events, while they were just being agile in the way they were running their robotics program. Then Sanjit's session were again, I'm taking away the 3 examples he gave because it has a direct correlation to what I'm going to share. And finally our Ashutosh session, algorithmic empathy, something new. Algorithmic empathy, that's the takeaway for me. Right? So I want to leave you all with just one takeaway. I'm not going to dump you with a lot of ideas or thoughts. Just one takeaway. How many of you have heard about butterfly effect? Few hands, right? Anyone? What is it? Yes, sort of, right? It's basically what it says is one small insignificant change in the initial condition of a complex system will have a unpredictable change somewhere else. So this is coined by Edward Lawrence. He's a meteorologist in MIT. So he was working with this simulation, weather forecast simulation, where he just took away a few insignificant rounding off. 507, 127. He just left the last thousands of. Yeah. Okay. In fact, I'm told that there is one more session. This is not the last session. Okay. Just let me stay corrected. Thank you. So he removed the insignificant digits. What happened? There was a huge difference in the prediction of the weather forecast, beyond his comprehension. So how he coined it is like a butterfly flapping its wing in Brazil's Amazon forest will have created tornado in Texas. Which means you think it's very insignificant, small change, what is going to be. That can have a very big implication. So that's where I want to touch upon today, in why your definition of done is failing AI teams. And before that, let me introduce myself, Ranjith Rajagopal. I'm an enterprise agile coach and also a leadership and life coach as well, with about close to 2.5 decades in the industry. So seen different evolutions of technology. Okay, so coming back. Any of your teams, do you use a bias audit in your definition of done? Data audit. Anyone? Data audit. But do you check for biasness, fairness, hallucination? Okay. Is it in your roadmap? No? So this is exactly what I want to touch upon. We are all talking about AI, technology, tools, process and everything. But the fundamental thing, right, what we are missing is data. Data is the cornerstone of AI, right? In yesterday's session, I think Vivek told about garbage in, garbage out at machine speed. What I'm saying is bias in, bias out, again at a machine speed. So some stats, again this was all covered in various sessions through yesterday and today. Most of the AI projects are getting abandoned halfway through. 80% of AI projects fail to deliver the results. Because AI is still at kindergarten, right? We still don't know how it's going to grow up and behave. It's still at a kindergarten. We are trying to make it do a much bigger than what it's at this stage. So we have to also be little conscious about how we are using AI, especially from a data standpoint. So I want to give an example of Apple Card in 2019, where, so what happened in 2019? David Hansen, he's a tech entrepreneur. He applied for Apple Cards, and his wife also applied. She has a higher credit limit, higher credit score, same joint tax filing, but he got a higher credit limit, almost 20 times more than his wife. He got 20 times more than his wife. Why? Right? In fact, what happened was within 48 hours, New York Department of Financial Service initiated an investigation when this was announced in Twitter by David and then supported by Steve Wozniak. Right? And it went for 18 months, $1 million spent in the legal compliance reasons. Finally, brand took a hit. Eventually, the investigation turned out to be that it was not an intentional discrimination. It was an unintentional, but doesn't matter what is the outcome. Right? So there was no bias audit done on the data. No demographics, right? The gender, the race, nothing was classified. No fairness, no protected class testing, no diverse users testing. Especially, they just looked at that algorithm is objective, but never looked at the data. Where is the data coming from? What is the data on which the algorithm is trained? And that's something we have to be very conscious about. So algorithm never saw gender, right? It learned discrimination from the historical bias that was put into the system, right? That historically there has been a bias which algorithm learned from that biased data and you got biased output. Algorithm was not doing it purposefully. It was trained to be biased. So intent doesn't matter, right? Intent was, there was no malicious intent there to discriminate based on gender, but what happened? And that's something we all should be careful about. How many of you are working on an AI solution? Not using AI tools, but building AI solutions. I can see one hand there, few hands there, right? 3, 4. Majority are not, or like, yeah. So 5 to 6, handful. But take it from me, within few months or like maybe a year down, most of you will be working on something, you are building AI solutions. Right now we are adopting, we have to now start building AI solutions. That's where this really we'll have to be very careful with what are we building. Small insignificant change or can create a havoc at the end. Right? So how many of you are Scrum Masters here? Quite a number of hands. And how many of you very religiously followed definition of done? Lesser hands. Some are not sure, right? So same pattern, okay, I'm not going to go through it, but same similar thing, actions, look at action. Some settlement, some legal lawsuit filed, settlement, etc. In 2025, 75% of the company let AI reject candidates without screening, human intervention. And of that 21% with no oversight, which means end-to-end AI. No human intervention at all. So, I talk about an experiment we initiated. It's still experiment, okay? There's no conclusive answer for me here. But what we did was, again, this is part of my organization. I cannot divulge the details about the solution being built, but it's more on fraud detection, some chatbots. So I looked at that as an opportunity. What else can I bring in as a coach in this area what we are overlooking? So that's when I thought about definition of done and the bias thing. Because eventually it's a very regulated environment in which we are working. Small impact can have a big damage to the brand of the company. So I experimented with a few teams, 3, 4 teams, part of a couple of Agile release trains. So wanted to add bias audit in their definition of done. Adding one into the definition of done is one thing. You have to go and verify that the data. That is where teams are little hesitant or skeptical, or they think that will add more to their work. But do not cut corners there. Tomorrow when you are working in an AI solution, do not cut corners with the data audit, bias audit. It could turn out to be an unimaginable proposition few months down or few years down, okay? So what hypothesis was, AI conscious checks to DoD will catch bias before deployment. That is an hypothesis, and it's still an hypothesis because we are still experimenting. Okay, I have not proved the hypothesis right or wrong here. But what I'm started to see is the culture of the team is slowly shifting. They are now asking about the data. Where did it come? What are the user group we are testing? Right? They have started to ask questions. Early, only their set of acceptance criteria, this set of part of their definition of done. Now they are thinking beyond that. The team is thinking, not the Scrum Masters and Agile. The team has to start thinking in that line. Right? And one team started to adapt well also. So they have added the bias audit. They started to do it for the last few months, 3, 4 months now. So they are teaching me what is working and what is not working. What is working is team, we can change the team in this direction. What is not working is some teams are still resistant. They think this is going to add more to their work, so let's not do it. So across the 4, I can see 4 flutters of the butterfly, right? One is the tone. Tone, they have started to ask, instead of just looking at the algorithm or the logic, they are thinking where is the data coming from. Our data reflects historical bias. Is the data used to train this algorithm, is it biased or not? Right? The other is what we check, the bias part of it. We do code audit, code review, we do a code audit, but we are also trying to build the code audit for fairness or bias. We look the code for the quality of the code, but look it from bias of data logic, not just the business logic, look for the data logic as well. Empathy, very important, and this was covered in most of the session today, empathy, right? Just imagine yourself in that shoes where you were discriminated. You applied for a card and your partner got a bigger, same situation. Or it could be in your, when you are applying for a job and it's getting screened. You know somebody who is as good as you or not as good as you, but you got overlooked because of bias. Right? So you be in that shoes and think how others, what it looks to feel like that particular individual or particular group of people. Right? And finally, intent doesn't mean outcome. Look at the impact. You wanted a faster credit decision, Apple Card wanted a faster credit decision, but what it resulted in, discriminatory outcomes. Okay, so again, AI will give you machine speed. You have to take a step back. Look at what is the data going in. Bias in, bias out. So, same thing, in interest of time, I'll skip this one. It's basically, we started in three, as a like a phased manner. Once, like, at one go, it is not going to work. So I'm taking baby steps, just adding one, see it, and feel it for 2-3 months. Because I know we are still far away from building a full-blown solution. We have time. But the mindset change, the cultural change in the team to look at the solution they are building from the data perspective is very, very important. That's the mindset shift I'm trying to build into the team. Right? Where this fits in your Scrum. So you have your daily stand-up, you have your retro, planning, review, anywhere, right? Backlog refinement, right? Just ask when you do the prioritization, what data source are we looking at? Who are missing? Which categories of users are missing? In the planning, if we deploy, who could be harmed? Who will have an issue with that deployment? Who set of users could be impacted? In the daily Scrum, along with the status you ask, right? Daily Scrum has become mostly status reporting. How many of you agree that? You can be very honest here. Right? What do you ask? Jira tickets, right? Mostly if you are using Jira, start asking about the status of the Jira tickets. Do that. You know you have to get the delivery, you are sort of accountable for delivery as well. But start asking these things. Did we miss anyone? What is our assumption? Do validate your assumptions. Are we missing anyone? Will anybody get impacted based on our assumptions? Right? In the retrospective, look for bias. Right? Ask for that. So I'm not asking you to do a complete overhaul of your definition of done. It's not possible, right? There will be resistance. Your team will resist. Even following this itself is now a tough task, right? And most of you, I saw only few hands for definition of done. But this is very, very critical. Definition of done, definition of ready. Readiness also, but I picked up definition of done here. It's the same with the readiness also, okay? So if you have, it's the smallest one, add a retro question, right? Did we audit the data for biasness? Just one question. You may not get an answer for few sprints, fine. Keep reiterating that in every sprint till it becomes part of your team's identity and culture. We have to look at not just the solution we are building, the users who are going to use it, consume it. How is that going to impact them? And if you are really building an AI solution, run the bias audit, and I will come to A small checklist of bias audit after this. If you're really ready to commit to a solution, add to DOD, AA features you have that DOD, include AA features have been bias audited. Right, and give a concrete example of how you audited give a user story where how you audited this biasness. So I'll give you just 30 seconds to glance at it. Just have these bias checks. Not all, at least you start with one or two, at least to start with. Just I kept a five, you can even have more, you can even have less, but at least look at which data, so where is the data coming from? What is your data source? Is the demographic analyzed? You have understand what demographic population is included in this mix. Does the data have any historical bias already identified? Right? Data may be biased from ages, and that's the same data that you are going to use to train your AI systems, AI models. Try to get diverse user feedback before completely rolling it out, right? If you're doing your user acceptance testing, again look for that demographic spread. Again, you don't go with one demographic set of users for your user acceptance testing. So, coming back, right? So what Goldman, the Apple card, they didn't have bad engineers. They were not unethical people. They just missed to check the data biasness. The existing data biasness in the data that was used to train the algorithm, right? They missed it unintentionally. So, but the intention was not to do a bias or like having discrimination, but that was not the intent. But still what happened? So technology is easy, algorithm works, model train fast. What we need is humanity. Humanity is hard and takes time. It needs empathy. You have to step back, start asking, start questioning your data. Right? Ensure that you have the right data, right ethical data. Again, same. So the questions they did not ask. Where did this training data come from? Who represented it? What's the demographic mix of it? And who will be impacted? How will this impact different groups if they are not included, if there is not biasness in the audit, in the data? Okay, how many of you still have your phone in the table or sort of gone back to it? Okay, very few hands. Okay. So I want to leave you with just one thought. So what's your key takeaway from this session? Okay. So how many of you are going to start that process from your next sprint? Okay. I can see one hand. Couple of hands. What about others? Sorry? Okay. It fits everywhere because data is everywhere. No. You have to take one step, right? One baby step in that direction. Because as I initially mentioned, it's matter of time where you all will be working on AI solutions soon. Right? Now we are trying to fit in AI to the solution. Now it becomes AI solution. Maybe a year down the line. Maybe even before that. Any questions? No?
I guess we have one.
Oh, yes.
So for the hypothesis testing, you're doing the hypothesis testing, right? So Do you have the results?
Not yet.
Okay.
Still experiment, that's what I said, right? This is the hypothesis that if you put AI conscious check in the DOD, things will improve, okay? Or like you will have a better result. I don't have the results yet. But I've started the process of including AI conscious checks in my DOD, in my team's DOD. Again, very few teams. Others are still in the process of thinking how to add, when to add. So it's a, sorry, data. That's the, yeah, check on the data. Most of the teams do not check your data unless it's a data product. Most of the things you don't check your data. The quality of the data on which you are testing. Now with the AI being the solution, quality of the data used to train the AI, right? Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much for the question. Thank you, Ranjit, for a great session. Let's hear it up for Mr. Ranjit. And let's call Mr. Falgun on stage to felicitate our speaker, please.
And I would like to stay connected through LinkedIn. Here's my LinkedIn
Sure.
profile. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Falguna is there to felicitate our speaker. That was a great session, Ranjit. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sure people enjoyed the pragmatic approach to bring in a second.